Hi guys, how you going? My name's Campbell and this is Autodidactic Channel. Thanks for joining me. Hope you're having an amazing day. And today I wanted to talk about the mud flood and the proofs that we have for the mud flood. Now the mud flood theory is the theory that at some time in the fairly recent past, in the last 500 years at least, there was some kind of event has happened and a lot of buildings have been buried, most of them half buried, and so we get this effect where we have huge brick and stone buildings and they have floors that are sunken below the ground. So many people say, look, these are just basements, and I understand that houses have basements, and especially in the US, a lot of houses are built with basements, but this is not what we're talking about. We're talking about huge buildings, brick buildings, and old buildings that have been there for a long time now. I will show you evidence why this has stuck and why there definitely is evidence that something major happened. So let's get into it. Okay, so this is a thread on stolenhistory.org. It is by someone called Corbin Dallas. They have a lot on this site as well in the forum, so definitely check out what they're writing about, because lots of good stuff. So in this thread he starts off, hey mainstream pseudo-archaeologists, why are you hunting for arrowheads, Chinese pants, Egyptian socks, leather shoes, and other nonsense? Why don't you tell us where all this dirt came from? In this case, we have the city of Sardis in today's Turkey. And where do you place this Sardis? The Sardis city on your historical timeline? Well, the answer is, and this he's talking about, this is the mainstream narrative. It was founded somewhere around 1220 BC. The city was abandoned in 1402 AD. Pseudo-historical punchline. However, once the Byzantines retook Constantinople in 1261, Sardis, with the entire Asia Minor, was neglected, and the region eventually fell under control of Genghis Emirs. The Cayster valleys and the fort of the citadel of Sardis was handed over to them by the treaty in 1306. The city continued its decline until its capture and probable destruction by the Turco-Mongol warlord Timur in 1402. Pseudo-archaeologist. So, where did all the dirt come from? Did it fall from the sky? Blah, blah, blah. In general, why do you always have to dig stuff out? Who buried all these artifacts? And that is a very good question. Why is everything found underground? And they tell us stuff that, is only 500 years. Some of this stuff they find meters under the ground, and they date it to like 500 or 1,000 years ago. And they find them at the level that they say they find dinosaur bones. It's just stupid. So this person, I'm not sure, TB has it covered. The disaster came to the great city under the reign of Emperor Tiberius, when in 17 AD Sardis was destroyed by an earthquake, but it was rebuilt with the help of 10 million sesterces from the emperor and exempted for paying taxes for 5 years. It was one of the great cities of Western Asia Minor until the late Byzantine period. What else could they use to explain the dirt? Here's some pictures. So this is Sardis. They did an archaeological dig, and here we go. This is 1910, I believe, around that time. Yeah, 1910 to 1914. And look at this. You can clearly see what we've got here. Got a big column completely under the dirt. It's on its footing still got its nice artwork on it. And these guys are digging out with shovels. Here we have another one. And you can clearly see columns completely buried. Now, what is that? If that's 2 meters, 2, 4, 6, he's not probably 2 meters, but That's a good 6-7 meters. Here again, more, and this looks like one of the columns is smashed over, and you can see it's like they're carved in discs and put on top of each other, but there also seems to be different ways that they were constructing these columns. Some are filled with rocks and some kind of cement, and then they've got like the facade put on them. Others seem to be hollow. So these columns mean something because they've been built over and over again, different ways but with the same look and no doubt the same function. Here we have another one, and just look at the size of this. Look how wide it is compared to this dude. And you can see if he's standing here down here at the base of this column, he would be like this high. And it's wider than he is tall, no doubt. So here we go, more. This column's just completely covered under the ground. So there you go. I mean, come on. What covered these up? Here we go. This is when they've uncovered a few more, and look at the size of them. It's a big, no doubt what they would call a temple, but it's a big building of some kind. You can see this one's been smashed away. And these look to be solid. They look to be discs, though, like that have been stacked up. Now this is what happened. So this is Sardis City around 1402. Now this 1402 was when there was an earthquake. And this is how it looked in 1836, with just 2 pillars sticking out of the ground. And you see these kind of pictures everywhere in these old sort of black and white photos and pics. Like this kind of thing is very common. And look what happened. They went in and they dug it out, and you can see right there, that's the ground level. You can see here. You can see the top of another one. So you can see the tops of a few little bits and pieces, because see, looks like the top of a couple of those are sticking out, and these are the 2 bits there. And all this was underground. No one knew it was there. It's a photo. And underneath that is a full temple. There's another old picture. So people believed that there was nothing there but these 2 pillars for hundreds of years. But this was actually underneath it. Okay, now this is a town called Herculaneum in Italy. And as you can see, it was buried in AD 79 by Mount Vesuvius when it erupted. And it remained buried for 2,000 years. And here is a bit of it, and you can see how thick this ash was and how it just completely turns to dirt. Completely turns to dirt. And there's no rubble in here, there's no, bits of buildings or bricks or anything, it just looks like solid dirt. And so, yeah, it got covered, 79 AD. And the town was discovered in the 1700s when someone found a buried roof. Now the same thing happened at Göbekli Tepe as well in Turkey, which is where that last city was. Göbekli Tepe, they say that was buried like it was purposely buried, so we don't know, but it's square kilometers big, and the same thing, a farmer just found a bit of it sticking out of a hill, and they found an entire huge complex under there. So let's have a look at this Herculaneum. This is what they've uncovered, an entire town. Look at this, and you can see here, and in the background, look at this. Okay, they're built on this new level. This is the new level here. And they're all up there, these new houses, and this is 30 foot down. All these were covered over the roofs. Obviously some people died, and here you go again. And so you can see here, these are just the top stories. They'd still go down further. They're still excavating it. So this was literally all under the ground. No one knew it was there until the 1700s. It's a whole town. Arches. These look like bricks. Nice arches there, so it's good work. It's got the walls. So there you go. This is what happens. Look at that nice stairwell. So it's a completely built out brick and stone city. They got completely buried in the 1700s. Stories under 30 foot. And this is what they found under there. Of course, columns. It's a classic architecture, isn't it, really, when you look at it? Pillars everywhere. And the same thing obviously happened to Pompeii. So how many times has this happened? So they're brick. Oops. So that's brick. These are funny little catacomb things, but so I wonder if that's red brick. Oh, what am I doing? How do I get out of here? Whoa. So yeah, there we go. Completely buried towns. This one too, same thing. Buried like that, completely under the ground. And here's another one. This one is in India, and you can see they haven't started really uncovering this one yet, but it's just, that's the top of some kind of building. You can see it looks like a doorway or a window there. And it says buried artifacts of the 8th century are emerging during renovation work at the Bateswater Temple near Rukuri in Ganjam district of Odisha on India's eastern coast. There we go. So these things are all over the place. We all have seen these kind of pictures, these temples that we're told were carved out of the ground. Were they, or were they just dug out of the ground? Were they built, buried, and dug out? Because, I mean, that would make sense. If they're buried, you would only dig out around the temple so you'd access it. There'd be too much work to uncover everything. So I guess they just went for the stuff that was either sticking up or that they knew where it was and they wanted to uncover. But I'm thinking no one knew much after the catastrophe and they were just digging out what they could find. And the Sphinx as well, obviously. This is later, but the Sphinx was covered to its neck. And they had to uncover it all. And now the Sphinx is in what we call the Sphinx enclosure. Now, as far as I know, with all the work done on the Sphinx, it is actually, it does seem to have been carved out because the wall around it is solid limestone. It's the same limestone as the Sphinx carving and same dating. So that may be a different scenario, but we do get these, why is everything buried? It's a very good question. We've got stuff underwater. It's just, why do things get buried? So, there we go. We know that something's happening and things are getting buried. Now, I just wanted to touch on another article by Corbin. And this one's called Catacombs of Paris Mud Flood Victims. And he brings up some really good points. This is a cool picture. This is from the 1700s. And he's talking about, he thinks there was 2 different mud flood events. One in the 1700s and one a bit later. So he's saying the events in question could have taken place as early as the 1620s. He does not put much faith into dates being accurate. So basically what he does, he goes through, here's another picture. This is, what's it called? It's called I can't remember the name. But basically these are burial chambers, or whatever you want to call them, where you cremate people when you put their ashes into these. And it looks like they're cleaning up mud in here as well. And this is, he starts talking about all these places and all these dead bodies. Where did all the dead bodies come from? He talks a little bit about giants here. bit about the mud floods. So this is the second period he's saying is 1850 or 1840 to 1900. And he links these. I'm not going to go through it all. I'll leave the link so you can read it. He goes through things like, the plague and everything, and what all these people that were being wiped out. So he's searching cemeteries, and he's found a list, and they go back 8,500 years for the oldest, 3,000 years, 3,000 years, 3,000 years, and then nothing until sort of the 1,800 thousands. So there's nothing really in there for a couple of thousand years. And he talks about Paris and the catacombs. And this is a map of the catacombs. Like, there's miles and miles. And we're told there's 6 million skeletons in there. 6 million. Now, the labyrinth of tunnels is 200 miles long. So he says, where could 6 million skeletons come from by 1780? Because the story is that they were in cemeteries. He has a picture down here of the Holy Innocent Cemetery, and then Paris got flooded and everything, and they had to rebuild stuff, and so they basically dug them all out and moved them to the underground into the catacombs. This is a very good picture too. Look how built up it is, and these people, I don't know, these buildings don't look as big as they normally do compared to the people. Just an observation. But what he talks about, it's down here. These are the catacombs. And then he's 6 million skeletons. Where did they come from? And he goes through the populations of Paris every sort of 50 years or so. And if you add all these up, it's under 3 million. So it's not even enough people from the year 29 BC, which is when it was founded. He thinks that because that's the best date he could find when it was founded, and up to 1750 when they built them, and it's not even half of this number. So where did they all come from? So he's suggesting, is this, were all these people from the mud flood, were they killed in some catastrophe? Millions of them, and they sort of had to hide it all. Because also, look at this. It's like 29,000, 20,000, 100,000, 160, 228, 300. Then it's like losses from Black Plague, wars, Renaissance recovery, losses from religious wars. So 210, then it doubles. Spectacular recovery. So what was really going on here? And that's a very interesting point, isn't it? Like, where did 6 million skeletons come from? And this is not the only place. This is what the catacombs, this is what they do. It's very necromantic, as you can see. Got skulls, on display. It looks like there's some kind of letter or shape they're made into. Very weird. These are all the bones. And he comments that they all look about the same age. They don't look like they're from a span of over hundreds of different years, in age from each other. And we have this. This was buried. I'm not sure how to say that. Is it Brno? Brno Ossuary is an underground ossuary in Brno in the Czech Republic. It was rediscovered in 2001 in the historical centre of the city, partially under the Church of St. James. It is estimated that the ossuary holds the remains of over 50,000 people, which makes it the second largest ossuary in Europe after the catacombs of Paris. As you can see, these are all skulls and bones. Alright, skull and bones. Again, another one. Like, just bones everywhere. And these ones are just sort of piled up. The ossuary, Putum ossuary. So an ossuary is what they're calling these places where you just sort of have the bones of the dead people. And it's just so weird that they make patterns out of them. Yeah. I guess weird. What? Postcard which comes from the Burns Archives Death Focus collection. What? 3 soldiers standing over a 30-foot deep pile of skeletons at Collins Cemetery. At the time, the price of a grave at the cemetery, which was founded 22 years earlier, was $10 for 5 years. If after this period the family or the deceased didn't pay up the remains to say buried, the skeleton will be dug up. That is freaky. Greetings. That's what? Cuba. Oh my god. Okay, so yeah, I've just found that a really interesting little bit to tie in with the mud flood and proof that, it's proof that something happened. All these numbers, they don't add up. All the stories they give us don't add up. It's all fiction. Look at these massive buildings. I don't know. They won't tell us who built them. They probably don't. I don't know if they know. It wasn't us. Look at this stuff. We're not taught this in school. And this was a painting in the 1600s. This was in the Renaissance. Why aren't we taught this stuff? There is a reason. So there you go, guys. Bit of proof for the mud flood. Some nice buildings and a bit of, what might have actually happened. So I hope you enjoyed that one. Thank you for spending some time with me. Please like, share and subscribe. And if you click the more button, you'll find in the description my Facebook page, Instagram page, and also some autodidactic merchandise if you'd like to help this channel out and get out there and let the world know it is time to be self-educated, guys, because self-education is the way forward. Thanks for joining me. Hope you have an amazing day, and I shall catch you on the next upload. Bye for now.